Think big names like CVS, Macy's, or Walgreens will always be part of your neighborhood? Think again. The truth is, these retail giants are in serious trouble, and many could vanish in just a matter of months. We're not talking about one or two stores quietly shutting down. This is a full-blown wave. Once powerful brands that shaped American shopping are now hanging by a thread. Imagine driving to your favorite store, only to find it permanently closed. No signs, no warning, just gone. So, what's going on? America's retail landscape is changing fast. Between inflation, rising crime, and shifting shopping habits, even the biggest names are struggling to survive. If you're not paying attention, you could wake up one day and realize there's nowhere left to buy the everyday essentials you depend on. Let's break down the hard truth. These are 10 major chains that could disappear from your city or town very soon. And trust us, the numbers are shocking, and the warning is real. Number 1, McDonald's. The golden arches are fading. It might sound unbelievable, but even McDonald's, the world-famous fast food giant, is in trouble. For decades, McDonald's stood for convenience, affordability, and fast service. But today, that image is starting to crack. Quietly, they've been shutting down more locations than ever before, especially in low-income and working-class neighborhoods. The exact communities that built their success are now being left behind. So, what changed? Let's start with price. The average cost of a Big Mac combo meal in the US is now around $13. That's a nearly 40% increase since 2019. For a family of 4, that's over $50 for one fast food meal, close to a whole day's paycheck for many minimum wage workers. And with inflation eating into household budgets, more and more families are skipping the drive-thru and cooking at home. Here's something even more alarming. In a survey taken in early 2025, 65% of Americans said they had cut back on McDonald's, not because they don't like the food, but because they simply can't afford it anymore. But it's not just about money. McDonald's is also struggling with rising crime rates, staffing shortages, and safety concerns in major cities like New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles. In some areas, stores have reduced their hours. Others have shut down entirely. What was once a go-to spot for affordable meals is now being seen by some as a non-essential luxury. And that's a major shift, one that could lead to even more closures in the months ahead. But McDonald's problems don't end with high prices and fewer customers. Another major issue? They simply can't find enough people willing to work. With low wages, high stress, and safety concerns, fewer workers are willing to take fast food jobs, especially in busy or dangerous locations. Some stores are so short-staffed, they've had to cut back hours or shut down entirely. And instead of solving the problem with better pay or conditions, McDonald's has gone all in on automation, replacing cashiers with self-service kiosks and machines. Sure, it might save money, but it's also removing the human touch that made the experience feel warm and familiar. Now, instead of being greeted with a smile, you're tapping buttons on a screen. For older customers and young kids, that shift feels cold, confusing, and impersonal. But the biggest concern? McDonald's is no longer untouchable. Fast food rivals like Chick-fil-A, Wendy's, and even convenience stores like 7-Eleven are quietly stealing its market share. And they're doing it by offering quicker service, better customer care, or simply cheaper options. So let's ask the real question. If McDonald's isn't cheap anymore, if it's not friendly, if it's not even convenient, why would people keep coming back? We may be witnessing the slow collapse of an icon. And if a giant like McDonald's is struggling, it could be a warning sign for the entire fast food industry. The live fast, eat fast lifestyle may no longer fit with the reality of rising costs and changing habits. And now, let's move on to the next big name that could be on the chopping block. Number 2, Costco, the warehouse giant facing a new reality. This one might surprise you. Costco, the land of giant carts, packed parking lots, and endless free samples, seems like the last place you'd expect to see on a list of at-risk retailers. With over 870 stores worldwide, nearly 600 in the US, and $240 billion in revenue in 2024 alone, Costco appears rock solid. But look closer and you'll start to see the cracks. Costco's entire business depends on 2 key things. 1, massive sales volume. 2, membership fees. Right now, it costs about $60 per year for basic access, or $120 plus for the executive tier. But in today's economy, with inflation squeezing every dollar, more and more people are asking, why should I pay just to be allowed to shop? A survey from early 2025 found that 1 in 4 former Costco members had canceled or chosen not to renew their membership, mainly because of financial struggles. And that's a serious red flag. Even worse for Costco, younger shoppers aren't interested. Gen Z and millennials are flocking to online stores, delivery services, and smaller retailers that don't charge fees, don't require bulk buying, and fit into their fast-paced, space-limited lifestyles. Let's face it, if you live in a tiny apartment with no pantry or don't have a car, Costco's bulk buying model just doesn't work. A 48-roll pack of toilet paper isn't helpful if you've got nowhere to put it. And let's not forget the rising cost of running those huge warehouse stores, from staffing to electricity to managing large inventories. These behind-the-scenes costs are eating into profits fast. Costco isn't collapsing overnight, but it's clearly facing a slow decline if it can't evolve with changing customer habits. Here's something most people don't see. Logistics costs are skyrocketing, especially with inflation still running hot in 2025. Costco, once praised for its smooth, cost-effective global supply chain, is now feeling the heat. Import prices, fuel costs, and transportation fees are all climbing, and that's eating into profits fast. In 2024, Costco's profit margin hovered around just 2.5%, not 25%, a razor-thin cushion that could be wiped out if another economic shock hits. And then there's the digital problem. While rivals like Amazon, Walmart, and Target have doubled down on e-commerce, mobile shopping, and lightning-fast delivery, Costco has been slow to adapt. Sure, they've partnered with services like Instacart, but many customers complain about higher prices, inaccurate orders, and delayed delivery times. Compared to the sleek online experience of other retailers, Costco's digital game feels clunky and outdated. So what happens if they don't pivot? We probably won't see Costco collapse overnight or suddenly shut down hundreds of stores. But the more likely scenario is a slow fade, a steady loss of younger shoppers, and a quiet shift toward becoming a niche brand for older, more traditional customers. And that's the real danger. If Costco doesn't evolve, America could lose yet another affordable option right when everyday families need it most, during a time of soaring prices, shrinking paychecks, and growing economic uncertainty. Number 3, Walgreens, the pharmacy chain in crisis. Let's talk about Walgreens, once a staple on almost every street corner, open 24/7, fully staffed, and well lit. But lately, something has changed. You may have noticed signs that say, permanently closed, or new reduced hours. These aren't one-off situations. This is part of a quiet but massive downsizing effort that's sweeping across the country. By the end of 2024, over 700 Walgreens stores had shut down in the U.S., mostly in states like California, Oregon, New York, and Illinois. What do these places have in common? Sky-high operating costs, increasing public safety concerns, and a growing wave of shoplifting and petty theft. And here's the number that really stings. In its most recent fiscal year, Walgreens reported a net loss of nearly $6 billion, the worst performance in its 120-year history. To stop the bleeding, the company has slashed 10% of its corporate workforce, sold off several pharmaceutical partnerships, and ramped up store closures. But the deeper issue goes beyond just dollars and cents. Walgreens is caught in a double crisis. 1, changing consumer behavior. 2, a growing labor shortage in pharmacies. More and more people are skipping traditional pharmacy visits. Instead, they're ordering prescriptions online or heading to modern clinics where they can see a doctor and get medication in a single stop. Walgreens, with its traditional setup, is struggling to keep up. Meanwhile, many of their stores are running short on licensed pharmacists, which means longer lines, more mistakes, and frustrated customers walking out the door. It's a domino effect. Fewer staff leads to worse service, which leads to fewer customers, and eventually, closure. And unfortunately, one of the biggest pain points across the entire industry is about to hit even harder. The problems at Walgreens run even deeper than financial loss and store closures. In 2023 and 2024, the company faced multiple employee strikes, with hundreds of pharmacists and staff protesting unfair wages, extreme workloads, and the stress of dealing with automated prescription systems. The result? A serious blow to public trust, especially in communities that rely on Walgreens the most. What's even more troubling is where the closures are happening. Many of the shuttered stores were in low-income urban neighborhoods and remote rural areas, places where people often depend on the nearest pharmacy for life-saving medications, vaccines, and basic healthcare items. When Walgreens shuts down in these communities, it's not just a retail store disappearing, it's a vital part of the healthcare system vanishing. For many, there is no backup, no other pharmacy down the street, just silence where help used to be. Sure, Walgreens still operates over 8,600 stores, so it's not going away tomorrow. But with every round of layoffs, every new store that goes dark, we move one step closer to a harsh new reality. Is America's pharmacy system slowly falling apart? If a giant like Walgreens, one of the big three in the pharmacy world, is barely staying afloat, what does that mean for smaller drugstores or for the average American just trying to get affordable, local health care? And that brings us to another pharmacy giant that's facing a similar crisis. Number 4, CVS, the 60-year icon that may be running out of time. CVS, a name most Americans have seen on every other corner, is now struggling to stay relevant in a fast-changing world. For nearly 60 years, CVS has been a staple in the pharmacy and retail world. But today, the question is, will CVS still be around tomorrow? Right now, things aren't looking good. Even though CVS remains the largest retail pharmacy chain in the US, it's facing a challenge it never saw coming, a massive shift in how Americans get their medication. Let's be real. Today's pharmacy world isn't just about selling cold medicine or Band-Aids in a store. Consumers can now order prescriptions online, book virtual doctor visits, and have their meds delivered to their door, all without setting foot in a store. And that's where CVS is falling behind. Tech giants like Amazon have stepped into the healthcare game, and they're not just competing, they're rebuilding the entire system. Amazon Pharmacy now lets customers fill prescriptions online, often at lower prices, and ships them directly to your home. According to a 2025 report from Morning Consult, nearly 40% of American consumers have already purchased medications online, a clear sign that the traditional walk-in pharmacy model is being left behind. And if CVS is still betting on its massive chain of physical stores to carry the business forward, it might be betting on a dying model. Because let's face it, for the average consumer today, convenience, speed, and price matter more than ever. And if CVS can't offer those things better than an app on your phone can, its future may be hanging by a thread. Let's be honest, consumer behavior has changed forever. People now prefer telehealth services, virtual doctor consultations, and prescription deliveries that arrive straight to their door. The world CVS was built for, it's quickly disappearing, and the problem goes beyond just competition. CVS is also being squeezed by rising labor costs, skyrocketing operational expenses, and the massive cost of maintaining thousands of physical stores across the country. With less foot traffic and fewer people walking through those automatic doors, that physical presence has become a major financial burden. Meanwhile, on-demand digital services, fast, flexible, and affordable, are exploding in popularity. And CVS is stuck trying to pivot, but it's moving far too slowly. So here's the hard question. Can CVS survive the digital revolution? Can it keep up with the expectations of modern consumers who want speed, convenience, and affordability, all from their phones? Because if CVS doesn't adapt, and soon, it could lose its grip on the very market it once ruled. If you're someone who relies on CVS for your prescriptions, your flu shots, or even just a pack of bandages late at night, this should concern you, because in a few years, those familiar aisles and local pharmacists might be gone. The fall of CVS isn't a distant threat. It's a very real possibility, and it might happen faster than anyone expected. Number 5, Macy's, the American icon that's slowly fading away. Macy's. For generations, it was a symbol of American tradition, a department store woven into the fabric of holidays, family shopping trips, and childhood memories. Who didn't grow up watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade or browsing those grand displays during Christmas? But today, that legacy is in danger of disappearing. Behind the scenes, Macy's is facing a harsh new reality, one that's nothing like the festive, busy store we pictured during the holidays. Sales are slipping, foot traffic is shrinking, store closures are accelerating. So what exactly is happening? Macy's is caught in the middle of a retail revolution. Consumers are rapidly shifting away from traditional malls and embracing online shopping, fast delivery, and personalized digital experiences. And Macy's, it's struggling to keep up. The numbers tell the story. In the past year alone, Macy's revenue dropped by more than 5%, a serious blow for a company of its size. But that's just the surface. The real issue is deeper. Macy's has been slow to adapt to the changing needs and habits of modern shoppers. People want convenience, better prices, and faster service. Department stores, once considered destinations, now feel like a chore. And unless Macy's makes a bold, transformative change, it risks becoming nothing more than a memory, a once great brand that failed to evolve. Don't be surprised if in just a few years, the Macy's you grew up with is no longer around. While e-commerce giants like Amazon and Walmart surge ahead with lightning-fast delivery and competitive pricing, Macy's is struggling to keep up. The massive costs of running huge department stores, along with the staff required to keep them running, have become a crushing burden. So where does Macy's go from here? Well, that's the big question, because the company now stands at a fork in the road. It can cling to the past, holding on to a model that no longer fits today's world, or it can take a massive leap and reinvent itself from the ground up. In the coming months, Macy's will face its defining moment. Will it fight to remain relevant, or fade quietly into retail history, joining the long list of once famous brands that couldn't adapt fast enough? Right now, the future of Macy's hangs in the balance, and it may never be the same again. Number 6. Nordstrom, the fall of a luxury giant. For decades, Nordstrom was the gold standard in upscale retail, a name that meant style, class, and exceptional customer service. People weren't just shopping at Nordstrom, they were experiencing it. The spotless stores, the tailored service, the premium feel, it all added up to something truly unique. But in 2025, that model is crumbling. After the pandemic, shoppers have changed. Luxury and experience no longer lead the way. Convenience and savings do. And Nordstrom's classic high-touch approach is now seen by many as an unnecessary luxury they simply can't afford. Let's look at the numbers. According to their Q4 2024 report, Nordstrom's revenue plunged by 41% year over year. Even more alarming, their profit margin dropped to just 1.5%, the lowest in over a decade. That's not a dip. That's a red flag. Even Nordstrom Rack, the company's more affordable division, missed its sales targets. It was supposed to attract budget-conscious shoppers. Instead, it got stuck trying to balance luxury branding with discount pricing and ended up pleasing no one. And there's more. In 2024 alone, Nordstrom shut down over 15 full-line stores, including once iconic locations in San Francisco, Portland, and Minneapolis. These weren't just any stores. They were flagships in prime real estate. Their closure signals something much bigger, a slow retreat from the traditional retail battlefield. So, what's really going on? Consumers no longer want to drive 30 minutes to a mall, try on clothes, and maybe walk out empty-handed. Shopping today is all about speed, simplicity, and savings, all just a few taps away on a smartphone. Yes, Nordstrom has made efforts to improve its online experience. But let's face it, they're still lagging far behind giants like Amazon, Target, and even fast fashion platforms like Shein. In today's world, being elegant isn't enough. You have to be fast, affordable, effortless. And unless Nordstrom makes a bold shift, it may quietly become the next big name to disappear from the American retail map. Not with a crash, but with a slow, silent fade. What's perhaps most symbolic of Nordstrom's slow unraveling is this: the once prized real estate it occupied, those flagship stores in elite malls. Many of them now sit vacant, with for lease signs in the windows. Several shopping centers have confirmed Nordstrom is no longer the anchor tenant. And without that draw, nearby stores suffer too, losing foot traffic and stability. Yes, the Nordstrom name still shines above a handful of upscale storefronts. But look a little closer. You'll see fewer employees, more unsold inventory, and heavier discounts than ever before. This isn't a dramatic collapse. It's quieter than that, but it's steady and unmistakable. And if even a high-end brand like Nordstrom is struggling to survive, what does that mean for the future of traditional retail at large? Can Nordstrom turn things around? Or will it become just another once great name that fades into memory? That question is no longer years away. It's already knocking at the door. Number 7. Rite Aid, the collapse of a community staple. There's a sobering reality that's becoming harder to ignore. The neighborhood pharmacies many of us once relied on are starting to disappear. and none more visibly than Rite Aid. Once the third largest pharmacy chain in the U.S., trailing only CVS and Walgreens, Rite Aid had over 4,600 stores at its peak. But by early 2025, that number has plummeted to just over 1,700, a stunning freefall with no signs of stopping. And in late 2023, Rite Aid officially filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, sending shockwaves across the country. Thousands of employees were laid off. Entire towns were left without access to a pharmacy for miles. But this wasn't just about bad business decisions. A massive wave of lawsuits linked to the opioid epidemic struck a devastating blow. The U.S. Department of Justice accused Rite Aid of illegally dispensing hundreds of millions of pills, ignoring clear warning signs, and fueling an addiction crisis that now claims over 100,000 American lives every year. The financial consequences were enormous, more than $3 billion in debt, forcing the company to sell off assets, close hundreds of stores, and make deep cuts across the board. But legal trouble wasn't the only issue. While CVS moved into digital healthcare and Walgreens built in-store clinics and invested in tech, Rite Aid failed to adapt. It stuck with an outdated retail model, slow to modernize, and fell behind as customers turned to online services and integrated care solutions. In today's world, people want to order prescriptions with a tap, get home delivery, or pick up meds while visiting their doctor, not wait in line at a dying drugstore. And perhaps most tragic of all, the human impact. Many of the Rite Aid closures are happening in rural and low-income communities, places where the nearest pharmacy is now dozens of miles away. For these residents, Rite Aid wasn't just a store. It was a lifeline. Now it's gone. And with it, another piece of local American healthcare, quietly erased. In countless small towns and rural communities, Rite Aid was more than just a store. It was the only healthcare access point for miles. Now, many of those locations have shuttered, leaving entire populations, including elderly residents, patients with chronic illnesses, and families without transportation, stranded. They're forced to travel dozens of miles just to pick up basic medications. In times of emergency, that isn't just inconvenient, it's life-threatening. This is what makes Rite Aid's collapse so much more than a bankruptcy. It's not just a story about money, it's a warning. If a pharmacy chain woven into the fabric of thousands of American communities can no longer survive, what does that say about the state of grassroots healthcare in this country? The fall of Rite Aid isn't just a business failure, it's a wake-up call. Let's not wait until the last pharmacy closes and families are left scrambling for care to realize what's being lost. Number 8. Dollar General, the cracks in the discount giant. In countless rural pockets of America, where there are no supermarkets, no pharmacies, and no big box stores, there was always one place people could count on: Dollar General. For a few bucks, you could grab canned food, a roll of toilet paper, cold medicine, maybe even a birthday toy for your child. For many, it was a lifeline. But now, that lifeline is fraying fast, and its unraveling threatens the entire foundation of America's low-income economy. As of early 2025, Dollar General operates over 19,000 stores, more than McDonald's, Starbucks, and Walmart combined. But that impressive scale has become a massive liability. In 2023, Dollar General's stock crashed by more than 50%, prompting the CEO to resign and issue a rare public apology to shareholders. Behind the scenes, a storm was brewing, profits are shrinking, inventories are overflowing, and most alarmingly, violence and theft are on the rise inside stores, once seen as safe community spaces. Internal reports reveal that violent incidents have doubled in just 3 years, with states like Ohio, Georgia, and Alabama seeing hundreds of assaults and robberies at these locations, many of which are staffed by just 1 or 2 workers overnight, often with no security, and outdated or even non-existent surveillance. And then came the hammer from OSHA. In October 2023, the U.S. Occupational Safety and Health Administration slapped Dollar General with over $21 million in fines, the largest penalty ever imposed on a retail chain. Why? Inspectors found blocked emergency exits, no fire response plans, and untrained workers in hazardous environments. These aren't just bureaucratic violations. They're life or death dangers to both employees and customers. And while all this was happening, Dollar General continued its aggressive expansion strategy, opening thousands of new stores year after year. But more stores don't mean more stability. They mean more risk, more strain, and more cracks in a foundation that's already breaking. Dollar General's expansion hasn't just outpaced the economy, it's outpaced its own ability to manage itself. Stores are now chronically understaffed, poorly maintained, and riddled with expired or damaged products. The once reliable inventory, slipping in quality, raising serious concerns about safety and trust. The heartbreaking irony is that the very communities that once relied on Dollar General, America's rural poor, small-town seniors, struggling. Families are now starting to lose faith. So here's the real question. If a discount retail giant, once seen as an essential pillar for low-income Americans, can't hold its ground now, what happens when the next big economic crisis hits? If Dollar General starts shuttering stores or cutting back further, this won't just be a corporate misstep. It could become a humanitarian crisis. Because when the last low-cost option in a forgotten town disappears, the consequences won't be measured in missing paper towels or canned soup. They'll be measured in empty shelves, isolated seniors, and children going without basics. Number 9, Best Buy, the tech showroom that's losing power. Once upon a time, Best Buy was the ultimate tech destination. It was the place where you could walk in, try out the newest iPhone, feel the keys on a cutting-edge laptop, or test the surround sound on a high-end speaker system. It was America's tech playground. But now, ask your friends, when was the last time they actually walked into a Best Buy? Most won't even remember. And it's not just a feeling, the numbers back it up. In fiscal year 2023, Best Buy sales dropped by more than 10%, and even more alarmingly, net profit plummeted 32%. Why? Because the game has changed, permanently. The COVID-19 pandemic reshaped shopping habits. Americans no longer stroll store aisles to discover tech. They browse, compare, and click online. Best Buy's proud "try before you buy" experience is quickly becoming obsolete. And while this shift alone would be challenging, there's another force quietly squeezing Best Buy: Amazon. Where Best Buy relies on brick-and-mortar stores, complete with high leases, utility bills, and payroll, Amazon delivers products to your doorstep faster, cheaper, and with limitless options. Picture this. A customer walks into Best Buy, tests a Dell laptop, then pulls out their phone and buys it on Amazon for $50 less before they even leave the store. That's the everyday reality Best Buy is facing, and it's about to get worse. According to the Consumer Technology Association, 2024 marked the first decline in TV and laptop sales in 5 years. Even smartphones, once the cornerstone of tech retail, are hitting a wall. People aren't upgrading like they used to. They're holding onto devices longer, and that directly hits Best Buy's bottom line. The result? Best Buy has begun quietly downsizing, shutting down locations in major shopping hubs from California to Illinois to New York. Malls that once buzzed with weekend shoppers now sit eerily still, with vacant storefronts where Best Buy used to thrive. But this isn't just about falling sales, it's about the collapse of a retail model. In-person tech shopping, the ability to touch, test, and talk to real experts, is being replaced by scrolling, clicking, and delivery trucks. A new generation raised on TikTok, Amazon, and one-day shipping doesn't value that traditional experience. To them, the store isn't a destination, it's an unnecessary step. So what happens next? What happens to the tens of thousands of workers who staffed these showrooms? What happens to our relationship with technology when we buy, not based on feel or interaction, but on whatever algorithm shows up first? This isn't just Best Buy's struggle. It's the story of an America shifting too fast, where even giants can't find their footing. Number 10, Save Mart, a grocery staple in silent decline. Picture this. It's a Saturday morning in Central California. Locals grab their keys, head to their neighborhood Save Mart, only to find an empty parking lot and the windows covered with "for lease" signs. Just like that, Save Mart is gone. And for many communities, especially in rural areas and working-class urban neighborhoods, this isn't just a retail closure. It's a genuine loss. With over 200 stores concentrated in California and parts of Nevada, Save Mart was more than a grocery chain. It was a trusted staple, a weekly ritual, and in many towns, the only full-service supermarket for miles. But in recent years, cracks have begun to show, fast. For over 70 years, working-class and middle-income families in California relied on Save Mart as a reliable, community-focused alternative to big-box giants. It thrived in places Walmart and Target ignored, quietly anchoring towns and neighborhoods that lacked other grocery options. But that era is ending, fast. In late 2023, Save Mart's parent company sold the chain to a private equity firm. What followed? Aggressive cost cutting, widespread job losses, and a wave of store closures. Prices changed, policies shifted, and longtime shoppers started walking away. The biggest problem? Save Mart is caught in the middle, too small to beat Walmart on price, too outdated to compete with Amazon on convenience. Operating costs are high, inflation keeps squeezing margins, and revenues per store have plunged over 18% in just 2 years. Worse still, in many rural towns, Save Mart is the only full-service grocery store within 10 miles. When one closes, residents are forced to drive long distances for basics like milk, bread, or diapers. And if you're a senior, a low-income parent, or someone without a car, you're stranded. This isn't just a story about one struggling company. It's about the slow disappearance of mid-sized chains, the ones too small to compete and too essential to lose. So the real question isn't, can Save Mart survive? It's this: are we watching the quiet collapse of America's last-mile safety net and doing nothing about it? Because when these stores vanish, the people left behind are always the ones with the least. We've just taken a hard look at 10 major retail chains across the U.S. that are on the brink, not just because of shrinking profits, but because the entire foundation of retail is shifting. Online convenience, changing habits, rising costs. It's a perfect storm, and only the strongest or smartest will make it out alive. Let's be clear, this video isn't predicting the guaranteed fall of these companies. It's a warning. Because for millions of Americans, especially in small towns and working-class neighborhoods, these chains aren't just stores, they're lifelines. So ask yourself this: what would you do if you woke up tomorrow and your local pharmacy, grocery store, or tech outlet was just gone? Would you have a backup plan? Or would you, like so many others, be left with nothing but a long drive and an empty cart? We're entering an era where access to essential goods might soon become a privilege, not a given. Let us know in the comments, which of these companies do you think will survive? Which ones won't? And what are you seeing in your own community? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into American life, the economy, and the trends reshaping everything we take for granted. Because this isn't just about stores. It's about how quickly the world is changing and who's getting left behind.